Hello and welcome to Parenting Our Children and Reparenting Ourselves. I'm your host, Brittany Taylor, and it is a joy to be here with you. I'm a coach specializing in relationships, our relationship with ourselves, our partners, our children, and beyond. I coach beings who are ready to step into the more full version of themselves they have been calling forth. I support pregnant beings and families, partnerships, and individuals. Reach out to me for an initial session or to see if we are a good fit for my dedicated 12-week coaching program. This podcast is alive thanks to the incredible journey I have experienced parenting my now 3-year-old child, while simultaneously immersed in the deep work of healing and developing within my own internal system. It is my belief that our children offer us the portal to the growth we have been asking for, on an individual and collective level. The intention of this podcast is to offer insight into topics and themes that can help us evolve in harmony alongside our children, with unconditional love and support for us all. In season 2 of this podcast, we are diving into topics related to attachment parenting, holistic, heart-led parenting, unconditional love, reparenting ourselves, healing trauma bonds, and aiming to support ourselves re-emerging as full, integrated beings, while supporting our children in maintaining the same integrity within themselves and connection to their own system and intuitive knowing. Season 1 of this podcast took you along my journey of an autonomous, non-medical pregnancy and free birth, with a glimpse into our postpartum life. For more information about me, the work I do in the world, and how we can work together directly, visit my website at brittanytaylor.co. Hi, beautiful beings. I am so happy to be here with you right now. So excited to be sitting down to record this podcast. I started season 2 of this podcast a couple of months ago, and we did an episode on 3 years postpartum, then did an episode on parent-child positive touch and why it matters so much. And today we're going to be talking about the importance of routine, and I'm going to specifically be sharing about our bedtime rituals. I am such a creature of, always seeking that balance. And I think sometimes the way that we find balance is by hitting up against our edges or going over, going past the place. And sometimes that can look like too much consistency or too much chaos. And the longer I am in this relationship with Ilya, that's my 3-year-old, I recognize the importance of having a steady, consistent rhythm to our day, which also has room for flexibility. I will say though, Ilya has helped me become a more steady being, and I love that. I love the word ritual and how enriching it is to have rituals in our lives. I love saying ritual as opposed to routine, although I love the word routine as well. Ritual feels like it has this richness, this sacredness to it, and I feel my being is called to perform things that feel like rituals more than routines. I notice this in coaching clients. I've been working with one-on-one clients for almost a decade now, and I feel like the bulk of the work that I end up doing with most of my clients, no matter what they come to me for, is what are your daily rituals? What are you choosing? Daily, weekly, seasonally, etc. But really, what are your daily rituals? Because this is what forms the rhythm of our entire life. It comes down to these little details. And what are we really choosing each day? And this wasn't something that I was necessarily taught. I know that I had some, for sure, had some really sweet, sprinkled dream dust comes to mind right now. Yeah, that was big in my family. This, I can make the sound right now with my hands. It's like sprinkle dream dust before bed. And I had some really sweet ones. When I was at my dad's house, he would massage my back. Yeah, but overall, I don't recall a lot of ritual in my day. A lot of routines really being encouraged in a certain way. And when we go to school, that's not something that's being taught prevalently. And I really would love to change that. So hence this podcast and me sharing about why it's so important for us. I think morning and evening routines seem to be really grounding for most people. And today I chose evening routines to talk about because there's something so sacred and important and powerful about grounding down with a child at the end of the day and really honoring that day. Like, as I'm talking about this with you, it feels like a sunset. Like I'm in the warmth of this sunset and I'm being held by the space around me and by my caregiver or caregivers. And they're creating the environment that will nurture me and help me relax and fall to sleep and have a restful night of sleep and wake up refreshed the next day. It feels so important to ground, just like to literally ground down at the end of the day, to ground, to make sure our nervous systems are relaxed. We're able to get into that parasympathetic state and just really having, a relaxing environment to ease our way into sleep. Co-regulation is so important with our children, especially in these young years. It's interesting, this continuum going from literally the seed inside of us, if you carried your child, and then, evolving as they separate from your body or outside of your body and continuing to grow and become more of their own being. There's this continuum of how much co-regulation they really need and is already is inevitably happening, or co-dysregulation, depending on what it is or where you are on that spectrum. And the way I think about this is just really the energy that we are embodying and then literally breathing in to our being is so powerfully impacting our children. And in these early years, it's so powerful to be able to offer our children this grounded source of energy. And we do this in a lot of ways here in our family. And I think the bedtime rituals are going to highlight a lot of them. So I'm just going to really get right into them. And as I shared before, it feels really important to have these routines and rituals and really honor them, and then also have space for variation. When something comes up, we tend to have pretty routine lives around here, which surprises some people because I think that, we can fall on the spectrum of kind of radically different in certain ways. Our family has a lot of unique elements to it, and also we're honestly all really just we really value our sleep and our self-care rituals, etc. And still sometimes something will come up. It's there's this thing that we really want to do in the evening, and that's going to make bedtime rituals a little later, or whatever the thing might be. We're traveling, we're on a plane late at night, etc. And I think having space for that and celebrating that when that is what's alive, and then maybe just checking in and noticing okay, is this 50% of the time? Is this 20% of the time? Is this 80% of the time? And finding what really works for you and for your family and for your child or children. And for us, I would say it feels like 99% of the time these are our routines. And maybe even having an 80-20 split would work for us. I'm not sure, but this is where we're at right now. So what does this look like for us? Well, we usually have a meal, probably around 4:30, 5 o'clock. We have dinner. And then we wind down with some gentle, playful activities. So right now, we live in Austin, Texas, and right now it's super hot. It's in the middle of summer, so we don't tend to go for walks right now, but that's a really common thing we do depending on different times of the year. Take a walk around the neighborhood, maybe take a little walk in the woods. We live right along the green belt, so we can just get right into the woods, and that's so grounding, literally grounding, to get into the woods and have our feet on the earth and just sync up with nature. Maybe we take a bike ride. Maybe we'll walk over to what we call the meadow and watch the sunset, again, depending what time of day the sun is setting. Sun setting before Ilya's bedtime is not as common most of the year. So maybe we'll do some gentle playing. We have these things called magnetiles we really love, or building little forts or houses for cars. Lately, Ilya's been really excited about hide and seek, so we'll play some hide and seek. We have these cards. They're like animal oracle cards, and Ilya really loves them, so we play like charades. We'll pull out the cards and maybe pretend to be the different animals or make the sounds the animals make. So just some sort of like gentle activity. We'll probably do that until around 6 o'clock. And that's when we start doing bedtime rituals. Lately, we've been doing this sleepy time tincture, which is made by, the name is slipping my memory right now, but I can include that down below in the description show notes for this podcast. So Ilya's been really enjoying that, and I just put like a dropper full or two in a little bit of water for Ilya. And it's really cool because it is the tincture, and it's more so the ritual and what it signifies. And so I'll say, Ilya, do you want your sleepy time tincture? And Ilya will say, yeah, when Ilya does want it. It's like, sleepy time tincture, it helps me sleep through the night and sleep with peace and ease. Like, these are things we've talked about. Like, oh yeah, we sleep through the night with peace and ease and wake up feeling aligned and grateful. Like, really, the words we use, the language we set, the intention that we form, like the story we are telling is literally becoming our beliefs and becoming our reality. So it's such a powerful time to set intentions and really link that to activities you are doing. So the sleepy time tincture has been a fun way to do that. And then we'll do a pee, and then we'll go to the bedroom where everything's all set up, and we'll continue on with our rituals. And we have low lighting in our house. We don't use any fluorescent lights. We don't actually really use any light bulbs except for salt lamps. So we're in rhythm with nature more so in this way. And this is something that we've just been practicing for so many years. And so when we go into the bedroom, it's already that low lighting. I've already closed the shades. I usually set this up after dinner. It takes me 2 minutes just to make sure the bed's ready. All the things we need for bedtime rituals are ready. And then Ilya will jump onto the bed, and then we usually watch a show, an episode or two. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's not in flow, but usually we'll watch an episode or two of these short shows. So they're like 3-4 minute episodes. And lately, Ilya's really been into Puffin Rocks, so that's what we've been watching lately. But it just depends what the thing is. And this is so Ilya enjoys teeth brushing time more. And sometimes Ilya's really into it without the show, but this has been really helpful for us because teeth haven't been something that Ilya's really enjoyed brushing just without this show to enjoy at the same time. So we'll watch a show, do our teeth brushing, then I'll usually brush Ilya's hair. We have this sweet wide tooth wooden comb, and then I'll usually ask if Ilya wants a massage, and if so, then I'll get the jojoba oil and give Ilya a sweet massage. And this is also when I turn on the rain. That's what I call it, but we have this little sound machine that makes the sound of the rain. I'll turn on the rain, and then we lay down together and do boob. That's what Ilya calls do boob. We nurse, do breastfeeding, and read some books. And usually what we do is just share a little gratitude for the day, share that we love each other, and just sort of close out the day and then read some books. And I have some really specific books that I love reading based on, again, what I think is going to feel really grounding and nice for Ilya's nervous system. And that's really also a reflection of what feels really grounding and nice for my nervous system. So these books that I found, there's 2 variations that I'm really enjoying right now. There is this Smithsonian collection of animal books, and they're really beautiful because they all focus on a different animal, and they tell a story about these animals and also share really cool things about them interwoven throughout the story. So that's one we're really enjoying. And then the other ones are it's called Kids Like to Know series, I think, through National Geographic, and it's old school. I think they were probably put out in like the 80s, and they're, again, on like different topics. So one's like animals in winter, one is animal families, animals in summer, there's one on cottontails, etc., etc. And this helps us just like sink into that relaxed state. I think connect with nature. Animals are such a nice thing to read about. Nothing crazy going on in these books. Actually, some of the Smithsonian ones, there's a couple that are a little more like, oh, wow. And I love that because I think it's really cool to hear more about like how animals actually live. But those ones, like there's maybe one or two I wouldn't read before bedtime. But yeah, these books, I love them. I'll also link those in the description box below. I'll link all this stuff I talk about. I can share, what we do for tooth powder, our comb, because everything is so intentional. These salt lamps. I love these salt lamps. And I think this is really highlighting, really putting intention into each thing that you do. That intention and love carries over into your environment. And I really feel it. I love being surrounded by these items that really support the way we love to live and feel and be. And I feel like Ilya really does too. And so we'll read a book, and usually maybe we'll read 2 books. Oh, Little Owl books. We also really love the Little Owl books. We'll usually read a book to a book and a half, and then Ilya's asleep. And that's it. Pretty simple. Usually Ilya's asleep by like 6:30, and then Ilya will sleep until usually 5 a.m. That's been pretty regular, 6:30 to 5 or 6:30 to 5:30. And we get up for our morning rituals. Oh, and I love it so much. And yeah, Ilya is 3 years, 2 months now. And I have chosen to breastfeed just like on demand. I don't necessarily want to say on demand, but child-led weaning. Like I'm just really available for nursing whenever Ilya wants to. And of course, checking in with myself and making sure that feels aligned too. And so far, it really just does. And yeah, so we've had an interesting sleep journey. That'll be another podcast I do for sure. I've gotten so many questions about this, like nursing at night and all these things. But because of this, and because of not just that, but I think just babies as they grow into young beings, there's so much shifting. And in my experience, having routine really helps a child find their rhythm. And I know for us in our family, we were really craving like a steady routine for a really long time. And I think it just happens on different timelines for different children and families. And some people choose to kind of manipulate that process in a certain way, in different ways, depending on what really makes sense for them and their family. And I recognize that I choose a path of really, probably like pretty deep surrender, and like radical autonomy. Really want Ilya to be guiding a lot of what we do with, of course, my support. But so what I'm trying to say is like us having this routine has felt so epic and such like a hell yeah, because for so long I've wanted it. And we've had elements of this, and also it just wasn't happening, like for whatever reason, Ilya wasn't mature enough to really like be ready for certain things that were a part of this routine, or Ilya wanted a sleep dance. That was something that was a part of our routine for a really long time. I think because Ilya was always held by one of us. There's 3 of us co-parenting Ilya, and Ilya was pretty much, from the day of birth, just always on one of us or in the pack, and especially on me, and especially nursing a lot. So falling asleep at night, having like a rhythm or a rocking to sleep was a really big part of our routine, and for so long. And I know there were many nights of like, oh gosh, especially as Ilya got bigger, like, wow, this 2.5-year-old, none of us are wanting to like really choose to sleep dance Ilya anymore, but also really wanting Ilya to have that relaxed entrance into sleep and just not ready to lay down and just nurse to sleep. So as that was something that sort of went in and out of our experience, like, is Ilya available to just nurse to sleep or not? Once in a while available to read to sleep, but a lot of time I think having all this energy in Ilya's being and really just wanting to have some rhythm to ground that down. So I know sleep dances and walks were a big part of our rhythm for a while, and just timeline felt a little more unpredictable. Like, okay, here we go into bedtime rituals, and it might be 20 minutes or it might be like 2 hours until Ilya falls asleep. So this rhythm has been, I'd probably say like 6 months, maybe more, just rocking my world, rocking Ilya's world, I think rocking all of our worlds. And it's great. I feel like I can totally just do it on my own, no matter where Ilya and I are. And it's this grounding piece of home that we take everywhere with us. And we have our special blanket and we have our setup. And I love it. And I think Ilya loves it too. And then Ilya falls asleep nursing on me, reading this book. And then I'm able to unlatch Ilya probably within like 5 minutes after that. And that's also been something that's been really newer. I definitely have gone through periods of being able to unlatch Ilya and Ilya would keep sleeping, but not always. A lot of periods where like Ilya would nurse for 20, 30, 60 minutes, or some nights where like Ilya just really wanted to stay connected to me. And I've chosen to really be available for that because that's my choice, and I'll go into that in another podcast about breastfeeding. But because of that, it's just been really the unknown of like bedtime rituals and what a night of sleep is going to look like have been such a path of surrender for me. So this podcast is also just like me really saying, hell yeah, I'm celebrating how great this feels, and that like I can give Ilya this beautiful entrance into sleep time that feels not forced at all, really chosen by both of us. And then I can unlatch Ilya and watch Ilya on the camera I have set up while I go about my evening rituals. And gosh, just so thrilled about it. Love it so much. And love that I get to share it here with you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for listening. And I'm excited to be connecting here with you. I have some really amazing podcasts planned coming up for this season. I'm also excited to bring some people on that I really admire, connect with some other badasses here. And again, we'll be tuning into parenting our children and also reparenting ourselves. Thank you so much. Also, if you've been a longtime listener of this podcast and have gotten a lot from it and haven't rated it yet on the platform that you listen to it on and want to do that, that would be amazing. I recognize now as I'm getting more into the podcast world that validating that a podcast feels worthwhile, valuable, helpful for you helps other people link up with it that are looking for these topics. And I'd really love to offer support to the world that's looking for this. Thank you so much. I hope you're having a really beautiful day.